welcome back to room 237. And yes, as you can see by the hat and the tree, it is finally time for me to get around to doing some Christmas horror films. Starting December 15th, got 10 days left till Christmas. I apologize for that. Normally, by the first week of December, I've already started this, and I try to do at least a dozen. This year, I was a little slower with that. The Italian and Giallo marathon went on way longer than anticipated. Kind of had a hard time letting go of that, watching other things. Also, there's some personal stuff, family stuff going on at the beginning of this month. And honestly, I think I just kind of burnt myself out. Because for the Italian marathon, I reviewed close to 100 films in 5 months. I don't know if that's a lot, but to me it feels like a lot. So, last few nights I had time, but I was just way too tired that I fell asleep. But I have watched a couple horror films. I want to at least get a couple up for you guys. And so this is going to be the first one of 2021. And it's actually a made-for-TV movie from 1972 called Home for the Holidays. It aired on ABC November 28th, 1972, and is directed by John Llewellyn Moxey, who has directed a lot of TV. He's directed films like Circus of Fear with Christopher Lee, The City of the Dead, also known as Horror Hotel. Both of those are from the 60s. Then he did a bunch of television. As far as and made-for-TV films, mostly horror and thriller, like Taste of Evil, Night Stalker, not a Richie Ramirez film, No Place to Hide, and then a lot of TV like Murder, She Wrote, Miami Vice, Magnum P.I., Edgar Wallace Mysteries. So, the guy's done a lot of stuff. And it has a very good cast. This is an early role by Sally Field. This was before she played Sybil and really got some acclaim and became the star that she would become. Julie Harris, who most horror fans might know her from the 60s version of The Haunting, which is a great film. I do need to get to that. Jill Haworth, Eleanor Parker, Jessica Walter, and Walter Brennan, one of 3 actors to be the recipient of 3 Best Actor Oscars, up there with Jack Nicholson and Daniel Day-Lewis. And he actually died 2 years after this. Music was by George Tipton, and it's only 74 minutes. It's a very forgivably short film. If you hear weird noises, because the dog was sleeping until I did this. Now he's going to be an asshole. And I have to say, I've seen a few of these made-for-TV horror films from in or around the 70s. And I've been pretty impressed by them. I thought Trilogy of Terror was a lot of fun. I loved Dark Knight of the Scarecrow. I thought that was a great slasher film. This, it fits very well with the Proto-Slasher genre. I mean, it's not as full-on Proto-Slasher as, say, Black Christmas or Chainsaw Massacre or something like that, but you have like an identifiable killer. In this case, the yellow rain slicker, red boots with the pitchfork, killing people one by one. It does take, something that's always been common in slashers, not just Giallo, but the twist killer, the red herring. I thought this was a very good movie. It looks 1972. I mean, I watched this on YouTube. This is not a film that I own. I know I've commonly said I don't really like to stream movies on YouTube, but I didn't really prepare to go out and buy Christmas movies this year like I have before. So I kind of just gotta do what I can. Plus, I don't have a big collection of Christmas horror films. I've reviewed all that I have. So I found this, and it looks like a VHS rip or like straight from ABC from 72. I like that though, it helps add to the atmosphere. And not only is this a decent proto-slasher with Christmas as the background, but it's built around more of like an Agatha Christie style mystery, which it, if you've been following my Giallo marathon, you know I'm a huge fan of Agatha Christie and just her style of mysteries. Dealing with a group of people in this one restricted location, there's a killer amongst them. They got to figure out who it is. And I think it was very well done. In this case, it's a family with, there's this, Walter Brennan plays, it's the Morgan family, which I've also been watching Dexter, so I got that on my mind. But he plays the patriarch of the Morgan family, and he's dying. So he calls his 4 daughters in, or sends a letter rather, to have them come to him for Christmas at his very big house. The inside looks like a mansion. The outside looks more like just a really big country house. And, their mother died / committed suicide 9 years. I think it was 9 years before this. And the 4 daughters have taken it in different ways. And he's since remarried. And I don't think the daughters really know the new wife that well. But, so he convinces them all to come back for Christmas. And he tells them that the new wife has been slowly poisoning him to death. And he now wants them to help get rid of her, kill her. And there's a few layers to this because she is believed, but can't really be proven, that she possibly killed her first husband. Some of the daughters believe that the father is responsible for their mother's death because I guess he was seeing this woman while she was still alive. And I think he said she was drinking and taking pills at the same time and committed suicide. So, like, one daughter outright hates him. One, the oldest, is kind of taking, like, the motherly role over the other 3. One is just a mess. She's also hooked on booze and pills. And then the youngest is Sally Field, who's sort of the sweet, innocent, kind of naive college student. But the oldest is Alex. That's Eleanor Parker. She believes the dad, and she's the one that kind of acts like a mother to the other 3. Freddie is, I think, the second oldest. She's the one that is now drinking and taking pills. It is like an emotional wreck. Jo, the third one, she's very spiteful and angry. You get the idea. She's had a lot of husbands. There's even this funny back and forth where he sees his daughters for the first time and he's like, "Oh, Chris," Sally Field, have you started your first year at graduate school? He's kind of addressing them by what he knows about them. Like, Freddie, sweet Freddie, you keep drinking, you're going to go out like your mother. But when he gets to Jo, he says, "And Jo, I stopped losing count of your husbands after the 3rd one." She says, "So did I. After I learned you don't have to marry them to sleep with them." And he says, "As I recall, you learned that in junior high." Kind of funny. And so that's when he proposes that, "Hey, she's been poisoning me. I need you to kill her. And as far as she knows, you were all here because I begged you to, and you need my money." And also, they're kind of stuck. They're out in the middle of nowhere, and there's just this horrendous snowstorm, rainstorm. I'm not sure where this takes place. Uh, if it says, I totally missed it. But there's no snow. It's which one of the things about this movie is Christmas is really kind of a backdrop. It doesn't feel like a Christmas movie. I mean, yeah, you get shots of the Christmas tree. They mention Christmas a few times. The font of the credits is kind of old English, kind of calligraphy type that you see in old holiday stuff. But it's not. It doesn't feel super Christmassy. It's just more like a backdrop. Kind of like what Home Sweet Home is to Thanksgiving. I've seen other Christmas films like this, like the slasher film Blood Beat, which I reviewed a while ago. I think I didn't even really notice for a while that was a Christmas film. That's if I had known, I could have waited to do that for this, but I had already reviewed it. So it's not a very. It doesn't have a lot of Christmas aesthetic, but so this isn't one you might want to watch a lot. Like this might not become a new holiday tradition film, but it is just a good movie that happens to be based around Christmas. And the atmosphere is pretty strong with it because there is this horrendous rainstorm, and there's this constant sound of wind and pouring rain, thunder and lightning. It helps give it a bit of a gothic atmosphere as well, on top of just being in this sort of mansion of a house, this Agatha Christie type mystery. It does help add to it. The sound of just this rain and thunderstorm does help the atmosphere a lot. I know I said that a bunch of times, but it it does help the film along. And it does show, because like while he's explaining this to them, he's like, well, hold on, she's outside listening. But Sally Field looks out the window and sees the new wife in the yellow raincoat going out to the shed for something. So it sets up that she's the one with the yellow rain jacket, the red boots, and that's what the killer wears. It goes after them. The poster makes it look like the pitchfork is the main weapon, but as I recall, I think we only really get one pitchfork death. And again, it's made for TV, so you're not gonna get blood and gore, but it's done in a way where it's still effective. It's not like those slasher films where there's just none. You, it makes sense why it's not there, but they also do something with it. They try to make it atmospheric or stylish. I guess this is one that I could say spoilers because there is a twist ending. But I really have nothing but nice things to say about this film. It's kind of weird because both the music and the acting is kind of that mix of like old Hollywood and new Hollywood. The music has like that very classic kind of old Hollywood like score music. The opening kind of reminds me of the Home Alone theme, so that kind of gets you in the Christmassy vibe. And I mean, the opening credits has up close shots of the Christmas tree. But again, there's not very much Christmassy atmosphere or aesthetic. The acting, I mean, Walter Brennan is great. Uh, Julie Harris, good. Eleanor Parker is very good. Sally Field, she's kind of half and half. I mean, you can definitely see the potential of, the Sally Field that she'll become, but still kind of that young actress that's still kind of, she's not quite there yet. And again, this was 4 years before she played Sybil, which is a great movie. But she still does well. So acting is, and that's another thing I thought for these made-for-TV movies I've seen, especially Dark Knight of the Scarecrow, is that the acting was very well done. Uh, and yeah, the mystery does keep you guessing. It's not a movie that, like a Giallo, has a bunch of twists and turns and really gets you thinking in all these different directions. It's more like this is what's happening, and then at the end there's the twist. But it is well done. Uh, Not a whole lot to say, but I mean it's only 74 minutes. I'm glad I saw it. I really did enjoy it. It does kind of have a claustrophobic feel because we don't really get outside of this house. And we have a very limited cast. I mean, the only other character we see is there's this doctor named Ted who might be a little bit older than Sally Field. I guess they were kind of like childhood crushes of each other. He stops by at one point and she wants him to check out her dad, see if he's been poisoned. He says he's not allowed at the house because the new wife has made it, you know. He said, I've already been here once because he accused her of poisoning. Now she's kind of barred me from the house. There was one death. I wasn't sure if that was planned or, I mean, like, if the killer did it or if she did it herself. But we see Freddy. She's laying in the bathtub and she just kind of slips under the water, drowns. She had been drinking. I don't know if it really comes out that it was an accident or she tried to commit suicide. But there is the confrontational scene where Alex accuses the wife of poisoning Freddy. She even says, I drank coffee from the same mug. It's in my room. Alex says there's no mug there. Really kind of helps make her look suspicious. I'll say spoilers now. I'm not going to put the spoiler screen up. But the twist you can probably tell is coming. But it eventually leads up to, and then the dad dies. Which I don't remember exactly how he did. I watched this a couple nights ago. But it does lead up to a point like in your typical slasher film where everyone else is dead. One person is left. They decide to make a run for it. Now they're out in the woods or out in the elements and the killer's chasing them. That happens. Sally Field decides to make a run for it to the nearest neighbors, which is like a mile or two. And that's when she realizes she's being followed. She finds Joe's body, kind of half buried in the mud. She was the only one to be killed by the pitchfork, too. But she's able to flag someone down in the road, and it's Alex. And this is where we see the total switch. Because Alex, she says, Alex, you were right. She killed everyone. She killed Joe. She killed Dad. She killed Freddy. And the way Eleanor Parker does this, she's just like, hello, Chris. No, she didn't. I killed them. Her motive is kind of foreshadowed because Joe decides to leave early in the film. She has nothing left to offer. She doesn't feel like being there. And her and Alex are having this conversation about being emotional prisoners, both to the family and like to the father. I can't remember exactly which way the conversation goes, but Joe kind of makes it sound like she's not willing to be an emotional prisoner anymore. So this is when Alex tells Chris, Sally Field, that she's killing everyone to be free of them, to not be in this emotional prison. So then she starts to chase her off. Sally Field falls and rolls down this hill. Alex, I guess, can't get down there. It stopped raining by this point. She assumes she's dead even though she just tumbled down the hill. And then she's picked up by Ted, because I think Ted went to go get help. He was the only other one left alive. So they bring her back to the house. Oh, because Sally Field was able to lock the wife out of the house. But then she decided to make a run for it, I think. So this is when she puts her big act on, like, oh, it's horrible. And I really like her performance at the very end when she, because they say they found Chris. She's in there, lying in the bed. She says, oh, I have to see Chris. We see her enter the room and she kind of looks at her and smiles. And then she kneels down by the bed, and that's when she goes, oh, it's horrible. Like she's making it sound like that for the people outside. And then she just kind of looks at her and smiles. And then we see Sally Field just open her eyes. And then she has this meltdown. Which, that was a little over the top. But if you think of it, that's where she finally snaps. It makes sense. The acting is pretty good across the board with everyone. And then they take Alex away, and that's the end of the movie. It's nice and sunny now. So, yeah, it's not the most Christmassy movie, especially in aesthetic. But for just a good country house, rainy, stormy night, atmospheric in that regard, Agatha Christie type mystery, that's made for TV, and it's surprisingly good for made for TV. Yeah, I think you'll enjoy it. If you like mysteries, it's definitely worth checking out, especially like Agatha Christie. Even if you like Giallo. If you're a Giallo or a slasher fan, could be worth checking out. It is a good proto-slasher. But don't go into it thinking you're going to get a super Christmassy, like, it's not going to make you feel very festive. Like I said, there's no real Christmas music. Only the opening credit music sounds kind of Christmassy, and I think that's because it sounds like Home Alone. And really, just the shots where the Christmas tree is there is kind of the only thing that reminds you that it's Christmas. I actually forgot that it was Christmas through most of this film. Even though it takes place Christmas Eve and day, I think. But, yeah, I thought it was very solid. As a mystery, as an Agatha Christie type mystery, the best thing I could say for it is the acting. I was surprised with all the acting. Young Sally Field, especially Eleanor Parker. Walter Brennan's not in it much. He really gets a couple scenes, like the one where he's addressing all four of his daughters. Then when he's told that Freddie is dead. And then I think we find out, I think he was killed off screen, but yeah, if you're a slasher fan, check it out just to see another one of the films that helped create the slasher. Could be good back to back with Black Christmas, not nearly as good as Black Christmas, but still a fairly solid film. But anyway, I don't know how many Christmas films I'm going to get to this year. I did watch one more, but I know Christmas is coming up. I'm going to try to at least get a few, but bear with me on that, and I apologize in advance. But anyway, thank you for watching.